Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om.
Hari Om to everybody. Today's chapter is relatively a very small chapter. But before we go to the chapter, won't it be better if we try to analyze from our standpoint? It need not be the correct one. What would have happened when he was in the cave? Because this efforts
Get into the field, they will die. I told them that. I told them that I will die.
No, we are not talking about the physical inadequacies. We are thinking about what would have happened. What later on when we try, we have been going through many of Papa's teachings. So what would have happened? His own words. We are calling out from different places. When the necessary intensity of love for the name is present, our mind will dwell interruptedly on the name. As an example, we find in a household that the mother loves her youngest child most, and even when the child is in its cradle beyond the sight of the mother, she will not fail to keep up a sustained remembrance of the baby. What does make the mother thus keep up a stream of remembrance of the baby? We have to admit that it is her concentrated love for the baby. Similarly, if we love God beyond everything else in the world, this love will automatically maintain in our mind a continuous flow of God remembrance. The name of God will start on our tongue spontaneously and will run on it continuously. Further, the sweet sound issuing from the utterance of the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. When thus the mind is inebriated, as it were, with the love of God and filled with the music of His name, all its desires will be transmuted into divine waves of ecstasy, and all the movement of the senses will be saturated with the same joy. In this state, vision of God will flash out through our eyes, raising us to the supreme status of universal vision. This is the ineffable summit of divine union and revelation. Now we are trying to understand when he had that universal vision. So that means, along with the meditation, chanting must have been going on. So when chanting of not what we do, chanting, concentrated love. He elaborately explains about what is meant by concentrated love. The mother's concentrated love for the baby. Similarly, when we develop concentrated love, exclusive, that we have seen in the 7-8 chapters now, when that love predominates in his mind, what happens then? The name of God will start on our tongue spontaneously and will run on it continuously. Further, the sweet sound issuing from the utterance of the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. These are some clues for all of us, At the moment, if we are a little blunt, our chanting, unknowingly, it is for others. In the sense, we go for a chanting session. The chanting is outwardly for others. But here, the chanting is done to hear my own and to enjoy. So when we chant, even if we chant for a few times, the nectarian experience we should have, we have to have, then Papa gives us a clue that it will be sweet to the attentive here, attentive here. One must hear one's own chanting. And when such practice was done by him, then when thus the mind, so the name will prove to be a veritable nectar to the attentive ear. When thus the mind is inebriated, as it were, with the love of God and filled with the music of His name, not only the music, love. All his desires will be transmuted into divine waves of ecstasy, and all the movement of the senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, everything, all the senses, all the movement of the senses will be saturated with the same joy. In that, vision of God will flash out. On the last day, we found that through our eyes, raising us to the supreme status of universal vision. This is the ineffable summit of divine union and revelation. We have to think about it. Just don't. When he had the flash and when he started embracing the trees, men, mountains, and he was saying he was mad of God. Through his own words he had explained. You are off the line? No, I'm going to say no. Okay. Next, another one he gives. Universal vision means to behold the divine in the manifestation. everything is really the image of Ram himself, which means Ram has assumed all forms and he plays in and as them in various ways. In and as them. Ram is an absolute, nameless, formless reality and also the power active in and revealed as the universal manifestation. The latter aspect is his divine Shakti. When he said universal, you could see Ram, what does it mean? Universal vision means to behold the divine in the manifestation. When we hear this, we try to superimpose something on an object or a person. No, not normally. That is how we say when we say Papa, when you say a deity, that deity's figure we try to somehow infuse into an object. Could that be the universal vision? No. A beautiful word he has put here. Everything is really the image of Ram himself, which means Ram has assumed all forms and he plays in and as them in various ways. We don't have to superimpose something on a rock, on a tree, on a person, on an object. In and as they are. This will help us in our inward journey. The experience he had at Tiruvannamalai that particular day, he wants us to go deeply, otherwise how will we know that flash? You are Ram, you are Ram, you have come, like that, So later on in some of his talks or narratives, he beautifully explains about the universal vision. This is something, it throws more light. Universal vision means to behold the divine in the manifestation. How do I see the divine? The Papa has said, universal love and service based upon the vision of divinity in everybody. What is that divinity now? This question will come back again and again. So here he answers, you try to see them as they are. You don't try to see as something else. No, the tree in the form of tree, in the form of a rock, in the form of a angry man, in the form of a smiling person, in the form of a thorn, in the form of bitterness, in the form of sweetness. There is a medicine called Kaipamrut. Kaip Amrut, which is used for diabetic control. The moment you smash it and you put it, from the tip of the tongue up to the whole thing, it will be bitter. The whole track will be bitter. Whereas you take little sugar cane, you squeeze it, the sweetness. Now start thinking about it. We have been avoiding bitterness, bitter taste. But bitterness is also inherent in that, That entity, that power, that mysterious power which gave the taste of sweetness in the sugar cane, it is the same power that has given the bitterest thing in the Kaipamrut. Like that we try during our off hours, during our pause moments, whenever we are in that mood, let us try to accept everything as they are. Mahanandamayi says, if you want to find truth, you will have to realize everything as it is. in its own place without choosing one thing rather than another. A very important aspect the sadhaka should ponder on, because normally we superimpose, Normally we say, Papa did this, Papa did that, by grace of Papa, Papa is not hearing. All these words we use. That means we are superimposing the form of Papa on that particular situation and then expecting him to behave in the way in which we want. We are not accepting it as they are. So in the cave, when all other facilities are denied by him, when all the senses, all it has no field to enjoy, and when the outgoing tendencies of the senses were thus blocked, thus discouraged, and when the Nama chanting was going on, hearing was going on, the senses are totally under control. So the love for the power which motivates everything becomes more and more intense. And when all these things joined in Papa's case, he had that flash. And so the power active in and revealed as the universal manifestation. Surrender to this Shakti grants you the knowledge of Ram in his impersonal being. If you are entirely possessed by divine Shakti, you reveal the inherent glory of your real existence. This will no doubt reduce your ego to nothing. You do not then become a tool in the hands of the egoistic power, but you realize that you are the very expression of Shakti who works from within you. Now you attain an individuality which is of an exalted, divinized, supremely blissful nature. So when he had normally we may think, from the individual to universal means this individuality will not be there. No. This individuality becomes purified. Retaining the sense of individuality, it is getting connected to the universal reality. Some points later we will see. So after having an intense tapasya, followed by a glimpse of universal vision, Ram directed one early morning. First I will read, we will read that particular chapter. It's a simple chapter with not too much of points to discuss. One early morning at about 4 a.m., that means he was having the universal vision. Fearlessly at times they would eat from his hands, squirrels, Their fellowship was also a source of great joy to Ramdas. Every day he would wander over the hills amidst shrubs, trees, rocks, a careless, thoughtless child of Ram. It was altogether a simple and happy life that he had led in the mountain retreat. The kind-hearted Sadhu Ram would meet him every day, either up the hill or in the city when he came down for Bhiksha. A day came when he received Ram's command to leave the place. Where to? Ram alone knew. So one early morning at 4 a.m., descending from the mountain, Ramdas walked straight to the railway station and finding a train waiting, got onto the platform without being obstructed and entered the compartment. A few minutes later, the train moved. Where was the train taking him? It was none of his concern to try to know this. Ram never errs. and a complete trust in him means full security and the best guidance. The train ran up to the Katpadi junction. Here Ram brought him in touch with the Sadhu Ram to guide him. He promised to take him to Tirupati, in which direction the train was running. O Ram, thy plans are indeed always mysteriously worked. The new Sadhu Ram and he travelled together, and in due course both alighted at the Tirupati station. After refreshing themselves with some food prepared by the kind-hearted Sadhu Ram, they directed their steps towards the Tirupati hill. Both commenced ascending the stone steps of the hill. It was climbing higher still and higher up the mountain of glory. About 700 steps were covered, and the sadhus reached the top of the hill at about 8 in the evening. Then they had to walk about 3 miles over almost level ground. It was a moonlit night, but the cold up there was intense, while at the same time Ram's grace was correspondingly very great. A little before midnight, the temple of Balaji was reached. At the entrance of the temple was a fire, around which a number of people were sitting. The shivering sadhus hastened to the spot, pressed themselves in among those friends, warmed their hands and feet. Ram was indeed kind. A short time later, the doorkeeper of the temple commanded all at the fire to leave the place and get out, since it was time to close the main door of the temple. So all had to give up the fireside most reluctantly. The Sadhu Ram requested the watchman to permit himself and Ramdas to spend the night inside the temple, which request was not granted. It was all Ram's will. To come out of the temple meant complete exposure to the strong and extremely cold breeze blowing over the hills. It was dark now, and they had to search out a place to rest for the night. There were some massive buildings, dharmashalas, all open. However, the sadhus scrambled into one of these and settled themselves down. The Sadhu Ram began to grumble at the cold and said, Swami, it is impossible to think of sleep for the night. The cold will not allow us a wink of sleep. Papa replied, so much the better. All the time we can then be devoted to Ram Bhajan, the bhajan of the all-powerful and all-loving being. Remarked the Sadhu Ram, that is all right for you, but I should suggest a move from this place as soon as the day breaks. One more night in this plight shall certainly stiffen us into sheer logs of food. Receiving no reply from Ramdas, who was then engaged in the meditation of Ram. Every chapter this word comes. The Sadhu Ram laid himself down, twisted himself into the shape of the figure 8, at the same time covering his body with a thin cotton cloth, the only one he had. It was too small to fully cover him in spite of his assuming a position in which his bent knees were drawn up to touch his very nose. Bah. Sleep is quite out of question, again said the Sadhu Ram. Poor friend, Ram was sorely testing him, all for his good and good alone. The night passed. Early morning, when the day was breaking, the shivering sadhu proposed a climb down the hill. But Ramdas suggested that they might go farther on, about 3 miles, and visit the waterfall called Pavanashini. The general belief is that the person who takes bath in this waterfall will be washed off all his sin or sins. Hence the name. The Sadhu Ram agreeing, both proceeded to the spot, bathed in the waters, falling down a rock with a great force. Since it was broad daylight now, the top of the hill in all directions was seen clearly. The beautiful landscapes and valleys that met the eyes were simply entrancing. Bath over, the Sadhu Ram hastened down the hill, followed by Ramdas, and before evening they reached the city below. The same evening, both boarded the train running northwards. So after having an intense tapas, followed by a glimpse of universal vision, Ram directed one early morning at about 4 a.m. Papa to the railway station and prompted him to get into a train that was waiting. This time he had nobody to tell him. No? Intuitionally he was direct. Reliance on inner guidance. That is the first aspect. Later, when the train made a stop at Katpadi, another Sadhu Ram came forward to guide him to Tirupati. Papa later on used to mention that God arranges all things in His own way and at the time He appoints. Here we can clearly see the above reality. Bringing him to Tiruvannamalai, having had the darshan of Maharshi, prompting him to go for a month in absolute solitude, where strict tapasya was going on, and at the end a glimpse of the divine vision, universal vision. Then immediately after that, we will find later, he was asked to move out, and when he came, a train was waiting. That train took him to Katpadi, and then another Sadhu Ram takes care of him. God arranges all things in His own way at the time He appoints. Here we can clearly see, O Ram, thy plans are indeed almost mysteriously worked out. Ram never errs, and a complete trust in him means full security and the best guidance. So Ram is watching Papa now, different grades, he is getting graduated and you are seeing it. Absolutely no concern. A sadhaka must have endurance as the prime requisite. Because the shivering sadhu, he said it's all for good. So when we hear about this endurance, we remember a few words of Swami Ranganathanji, which comes in the Deshta Sarvabhutana. Kshama Veerasya Bhushanam. Forbearance is the ornament of the heroic person, is the Sanskrit saying. Don't think that Kshama or forbearance is the virtue of weakling. Because I am weak, I practice. No, that is not forbearance. Real Kshama is a virtue and comes only when you have tremendous strength. If you are weak, you cannot then say, I forgive you, because you cannot forgive that person who is stronger than you. If you are strong, then forgiveness is a great necessity. So always practice Shama. If you are strong enough to resist, that is the character trait. It's very beautiful to live in human society with such people. We want to increase the number of such people. That is how a healthy society evolves. So Kshama, endurance, under any circumstance. Here Ram is showing us, the poor Sadhu Ram, who also have tremendous endurance. Still, this was something beyond anybody's imagination. But Papa could pass the test. He couldn't. So it's gently Ram is showing us tremendous power of endurance should be there. Ramana Bhagavan sitting there at the 17th year, not asking anything. What a power of endurance, Endurance. It's something on which you have to keep on thinking about. This chapter tells us this. About 700 steps were covered, and the sadhus reached the top of the hill at about 8 in the evening. Just imagine. And they had to walk about 3 miles on the level ground. It was a moonlit night. Cold up there was intense. While at the same time Ram made him aware of Ram's grace, which was correspondingly very great. What does climbing signify? It is climbing higher still and higher up the mountain of glory. Even the climbing, that was helping Papa. To us it is a climbing of the hill. To him it was not a climbing of the hill. A little before midnight, the temple of Balaji was reached. At the entrance to the temple was a fire. All those things we have read. There also he says, Ram was indeed kind. Then we were thinking, what does he mean? When everybody is shivering, and when they are sitting, he says, when they are warming their hands, Ram was indeed kind. That means as soon as they came there, something was provided, facilitated for them. And another thing we can look at it is in the form of endurance. They were not allowed. What are the lessons Ram is teaching us through this episode? Because next day morning, they have gone all the way to Tirupati. 700 steps they have climbed up, walked 3 miles, endured the whole hardships, but they did not go to the temple. First thing is no attachment to the worship of outside forms. Because he had already been blessed with the universal vision. If it was there, okay, he will. If it was not there, okay. When Sadhu said, early morning you have to climb back, he did not say anything. He doesn't offer any of his comments. You watch that. So God willed that he should come back. The only thing is, he said Papanashini. If that prompting has come to Papanashini, he should have prompted also to go to have the darshan. No. So what do we surmise? It could be, we don't know. No attachment. And again some words he says, men of true wisdom and perfected experience, who have probed deep into the mysteries of life, acclaim, with no uncertain voice, the invaluable uses of adversity. If there were no suffering in the world, they were subjected to go through the, the severest hardships of reaching the Tirupati. Surely if there was no suffering in the world, Papa writes, there could be no evolution of man toward the highest destiny of life, the knowledge of immortality. It is through sorrow alone the soul stands the real foundation and purpose of existence. Whenever we are confronted with adversities, suffering, these will give us some cushioning. It is through sorrow alone the soul understands the real foundation and purpose of existence. Misery, pain, suffering open the portals of his life to the comprehension of the supreme value and power of life. Progress towards the subtle and spiritual realms of existence is possible only along the path of pain and suffering. The fullest grandeur and beauty of life can be revealed when it is made to pass through the fire of tribulation and sorrow. Because we can visualize, the extreme winter, they have walked, no food, no covering, no warm clothing. And according to the rules, the watchman had to drive them all out. According to us, if we are in that position, we call it as the acute suffering, superlative degree of suffering. But Papa found it most conducive for continuing his meditation. Do not be upset by the adverse happening in the family or in the world. With full faith in the Almighty, take all worthy things for what they are worth, and do not grieve over the inevitable. Misfortune and adversity are invaluable aids to spiritual progress. Any slight adversity, any slight disturbance, we immediately pray for it, for his redressal. So here now Ram is teaching us through Papa. It is all right, you may pray for redressal, but think that the suffering gave an opportunity for you to remember him and pray. If that was not there, you would not have bothered to remember and pray. So the first step is, you may ask for redressal, but first bring in this adversity, this suffering made me to remember him, and then pray to him. And I pray to him and I remember him because I feel he will be able to redeem. He will be able to give me the relief. Jagatpalaga. So normally we don't recognize. Only when adversity comes we remember him. Otherwise me and mine is fully occupying us. We hardly give any recognition for him until he gives us a kick or a knock. Think. So do not be upset. Surrender means taking everything that happens to one as determined by the all-merciful Lord. For the devotee, no adversity can cause unhappiness. He bravely endures everything that comes to him through complete resignation to his will. So be fearless, always rely on him, and be ever peaceful. We are trying to understand what are the lessons, Ram is teaching us through, making us to watch Papa's spiritual journey, itinerant life. Pain and sorrow purify your heart and free you from illusion. Then it is that you are eager and earnest in your quest for an existence beyond the tribulations of the world. Merciful and loving God is when He sets you on His quest, but the path leading to is fraught with severe trials, a necessary condition for the attainment of the divine goal. Behind all this turmoil, acute pangs of misery, anxiety, suffering, there is a spotless state of absolute peace. That is your goal. All pass away, but He who is that absolute peace is eternal. So during our passive moments, suppose we try to understand all these things. At the time of tribulation, we may not remember. But if we remember now, relatively, we are all protected, we are all, in a safe place. Everything is assured for us. I will use the word not luxury, not comfort, luxury. In such a time, at least we will try to remember, so that when He makes us through or puts through physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual trials and tests, this will slowly give us some balming, some solace, some comfort. Pain and sorrow purify your heart, free from your illusion. You must freely and unreservedly put yourself in His hands. When we take whatever comes to us, either praise or blame, as the doings of the Lord, and feel that He means always well, we can be happy always. He can never come to our rescue if we do not give up worrying and restlessness. Self-surrender means a mind bathed in peace and calmness, attained through a complete submission to the divine will. The Sadhuram began to grumble at the cold and said, Swami, it's impossible to think of sleep all the night. Cold will not allow us a wink of sleep. Immediately Papa says, we have heard all these words, so much the better. All the time that can be used for Ram Bhajan. Ramdas was then engaged in the meditation of Ram. We just imagine, that particular place, the situation. And here he says, was engaged in the meditation of Ram. One more aspect. Here the most significant aspect is that in spite of apparently taking all the pains to climb more than 700 steps and undergoing severest hardships, Papa and the Sadhuram did not evince interest in going inside the temple for the darshan of the deity. What does it convey to us? Though in Rameshwaram, Madurai and Chidambaram, Ram guided him to have the darshan of the deities, here Ram did not prompt them to have the same, probably to teach that exclusive and repetitive dependence on the outer form might hinder the universal vision. Elsewhere Papa brings out this aspect thus: hanging on always to an external prop in spiritual matters hampers his progress because his vision lacks then the flexibility for expansion and universalization. The center of interest becomes cramped and localized, while his aim should be to comprehend and realize the infinite nature of truth. So immediately after the universal vision, he had this schooling from Yoga Vasishta, perfect grounding about the impersonal nature of God. Still, when he went to Rameshwaram, when he went to Madurai, when he went to Chidambaram, not that when the Sadhuram took him, he went. But here neither the Sadhuram nor Papa himself evinced any interest.
Sadhuram also didn't.
No. He wanted to somehow get rid of the place.
Cold. He was ice cold.
So then he started thinking, what could be. So this is how though in Rameshwaram, Madurai and Chidambaram, Ram guided him to have the darshan of the deities, here Ram did not prompt them to have the same, probably to teach. We don't know, no? Repetitive going to the temple, for example, no? We all do that, no? Repetitive, probably to teach us that exclusive and repetitive dependence of the outer form might hinder the universal vision. Slowly the mind tries to get carried away, by the symbolic worship. So it's all right. Going is all right, not going is also all right. Because he is there everywhere. So here later on a different context, he brings out this. Hanging on always to an external prop in spiritual matters hampers his progress because his vision lacks then the flexibility for expansion and universalization. The center of interest, God, becomes cramped and localized, while his aim should be to comprehend and realize the infinite nature of truth. So Ramdas suggested that they might go farther on about 3 miles and visit the waterfall called Papanashini. The general belief is that when the person who takes bath in his waterfall will be washed off all his or her sins in the name. The beautiful landscapes and valleys that met the eyes were simply entrancing. Through thus promptings given to Papa, Ram hints the relevance of traditional belief of place and rituals also. At that time, Papa did not do that. He gave some importance. He was bringing this in. When you go there, Papanashini means, if you have a bath with the right attitude, the belief is, the tradition is, that you will be rid of all sins. Or it might trigger a process where you will get rid of all sins. So when we go through this, we find, leisurely when we start thinking and when we ponder deeply, though it doesn't contain so many important points at the surface level, but deeper level so many. Whatever you do, God teaches us that you will be prompted to go and do to hit a target. But at the last moment, He will make you to miss the target. So we need not form an opinion that a devotee or God should behave like this or like that. It means he was not particularly attached to anything. So through Papa, Ram is teaching us that don't make anything in a structured way, don't Don't give a color. No? Don't establish your own norms. I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, I should do that. Leave it to him. You are prompted, you do that. But as you are likely to hit the target, he may pull you out. That is how he makes you to know that his will prevails. Otherwise, again, I may think I have planned, I have gone there. So, in order to know that his will only prevails, he enacted this episode by dragging Papa from Tiruvannamalai to Tirupati.
Climbing all this.
Climbing all the time, making him to undergo this, and then asking him to get down. No? Something wonderful, no?
And again that bath they had in the Papanasri, cool water.
So so many lessons, it's a wonderful lesson. When I am likely to hit the target, I have done almost everything. By Papa's grace, everything was through, everything was through, everything was through, everything was... last moment, tip. It was not there. But at that time, I should be able to remember. Sometime in the early stages of our satsang session, he used to say that, you remember that, what is her name, I forgot. The mother who was an ardent devotee of Ramnam writing, when she had a stroke. When the girl who was not having the same belief, and she used to feel, why this mother is doing this, always chanting and something, what had happened to her. So according to us, normally, when you do some spiritual discipline, you should always be absolved of all sufferings, So when she had the stroke, became immobile, and later on when slowly normalcy was getting restored, she asked the daughter to get her a book and a pen, and she started writing Ramnam. So when the girl asked, what has this helped you so far? Then she replied, what I am suffering is due to my karmic wrangle. It has nothing to do with this. But he has been gracious enough now to remember him by enabling me to write his name. This had happened, And that was the turning point for the girl. Because concept of God becomes clear. Previously we thought, God means only a bestower of all that we ask. If he doesn't give, we don't care him, bas. He is not there. Later on we come to know, there is a karmic wrangle is also there. Until we hand ourselves over completely to the Lord, we are governed by, all our activities are governed also partially by our karmic wrangle. So when we try to distinguish between, whenever we are faced with adversities, that we are working out because of the karmic wrangle. But at the same time, God has been kind enough to make us remember him, chant his name, remember evolved souls' life and teachings, like that, So let us not get any fixed idea about it should be like this, it should be like that. These are some of the points. Yesterday, what a lucky person to be embraced by Papa, he was surely blessed. Okay, Vivekananda Sharma. Just an employer decides to absorb the aspirant for a particular job by going through his profile. Even before his interview, Ram has decided to bless Papa for realization by seeing his aspiration. Okay. Whenever you used to go to the source, you used to say, go to the source. I couldn't understand. But suddenly Papa showed me the fact that when you see Google Chrome, you see Sundar Pichai behind it as source. Who is Papa himself in that form? So understanding source was easy. Sukanya. superb analogy, interview or next campus interview of our next birth. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi and the Mahima were realized in their childhood and teenage, they must have done sadhana, upasana, karma yoga, meditation, japa, tapa in their previous births. Many insects around in the cave. Yeah. Spiritual efforts must have been done in their previous births. Everyone has to go through tapasya for self-realization. We have started in this lifetime. Let us see how much time it will take. Now, so many such direct. We are also in solitude because of the lockdown in Chennai. However, with all facility, time to time food, sleeping, etc. But satsang and Ramnam keeps us in touch with sadhana, not the other one. Papa's grace that you are able to get this sadhana teaching now. Satish Kam. Last year when we went to Tiruvannamalai, there were lots of monkeys near the cave where Papa stayed. Lakshmi Narayana. Number of squirrels fearlessly in the cave to share, to eat the food. Okay. Might have felt the monkeys are eligible more than us. We all devotees feel like one family without otherness. Somebody says, we have read Inquest of God, but we understand it better now, only because you are reading and teaching. So the message, every chapter gives us something for us to go deep. With this attitude, what is it that I learned? We must keep on asking. Then he will reveal it. Acha, one important request. Next Monday, normally that is our holiday. From Monday onwards, for the next 4 or 5 days, we will have a break. That means from this Sunday, next Sunday we will again have this. Tomorrow and day after we will have. And the next Sunday, that is the 8th day of next Sunday, that is the Guru Purnima day, we will restart. We hope all of you will agree. We would like to know your reaction tomorrow through your chat.
Swamiji continues. Swamiji going on.
Let us see how things shape.
Ram has prompted you like that. Ram has prompted you like that.
That we will be.
So again, after that, we will do that. And during these 5-6 days, we will request all of you to kindly go through the Inquest of God again and again and jot down. Because we don't want this session to go just like that. Hearing and going. No, that we have been doing all these years. Some intents. There are so many things are being touched and kindled now. This is the right time. Again, as we said, to consolidate our earnings. Every time we consolidate our earnings, otherwise, this also gets dissipated. All these years we have been hearing, we have been doing. What is happening to us? There should be a period of consolidation. Otherwise, the new one gets, we forget the old one. So many brilliant points have been covered, something which does not come to us at all. Ram, by taking us with Papa, through Inquest of God, he revealed to us so many dimensions, aspects, which are directly related to our spiritual journey. It is not merely for hearing, 3:30, 4:30, It becomes a routine. It should not become a routine. Every time before we come here, whenever we get time, we again go through that. Otherwise, the dimensions will not come. We will simply read, that's all. So the question comes, as a sadhaka, we would be asking, Ram, why are you making me to read this again and again? I have already read many a time. Okay, he went to Tirupati, he couldn't, he came back there, so what? Then he gives us a slap on our face. Deep go. That is why I asked you to do it. Go within, find out. In so many ways, I have clarified through Papa's words what each aspect stands for. No chapter is small, no chapter is insignificant. Every chapter contains some clues, some, what do you call this, handpost, GPS, how to move forward, how to make us more and more fit enough to become his devotee, to go near him, to feel his nearness, and later on to feel his presence. So this should come back to us. So from next Monday to next Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 days. 6 days we will all try to go intensely through all these things. 5th is the Guru Purnima day. It's an auspicious day for all spiritual aspirants, devotees. And on that day, with all our reverence to our spiritual preceptor, primarily, we remember our spiritual preceptor. Then we remember all the gurus who have been trying to put us on the rails. We remember all of them, we parade all of them, we express our gratitude, and then make a resolve to try to live up to what is expected of us. So, we hope we have your permission for this. Tomorrow, please let us know. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om.
Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya
Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om
Something is going around
Shri
Uttananda's head.
Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai 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 Jai Ram Om
Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Rama Jaya Jaya
Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Hari Om to everybody. We are now on the which chapter? 12th chapter. So from Tirupati, after having their bath in Papanashini, both of them started climbing, and straight away when they reached on the foothills, they proceeded to the railway station. One train was there to Kalahasti. After a day's stay there, they left for Jagannath Puri. So here, a wonderful episode. First we will read this. After a day's stay here in Kalahasti, they left for Jagannath Puri. It was noon. The Sadhuram and Ramdas were in the train. A ticket inspector, a Christian, dressed in European fashion, stepped into a carriage at a small station and coming up to the sadhus asked for tickets. Sadhus carry no tickets, brother, for they neither possess nor care to possess any money, said Ramdas in English. The ticket inspector replied, "You can speak English, educated as you are. You cannot travel without a ticket. I have to ask you both to get down." The Sadhuram and he accordingly got down at the bidding of the inspector. "It is all Ram's will," assured Ramdas to his guide. They were now on the platform and there was still some more time for the train to start. The ticket inspector meanwhile felt an inclination to hold conversation with Ramdas, who with the Sadhuram was waiting for the train to depart. "Well," broke in the inspector looking at Ramdas, "may I know with what purpose you are travelling in this manner?" "In quest of God," was his simple reply. The inspector persisted, "They say God is everywhere. Then where is the fun of your knocking about in search of Him, while He is at the very place from which you started on this quest, as you say?" "Right, brother," replied Ramdas. "God is everywhere. But He wants to have this fact actually proved by going to all places and realizing His presence everywhere." "Well then," continued the inspector, "if you are discovering God wherever you go, you must be seeing Him here on this spot where you stand." "Certainly, brother," rejoined Ramdas, "He is here at the very place where we stand." "Can you tell me where He is?" asked the inspector. "Behold, He is here, standing in front of me," exclaimed Ramdas enthusiastically. "Where?" cried the inspector impatiently. Here, here, pointed out Ramdas, smiling and patted on the broad chest of the inspector himself. In the tall figure standing in front, that is in yourself, Ramdas clearly sees God who is everywhere. For a time, the inspector looked confused. Then he broke into a heavy fit of laughter. Opening the door of the compartment from which he had asked them to get down, he requested them to get in again, and they did so, followed by him. He sat in the train with the sadhus for some time. I cannot disturb you, friends. I wish you all success in your quest of God. With these words, he left the carriage, and the train rolled onwards. O Ram, thy name be glorified. No, we should not forget that Ram is taking us. Ram who is seated within and who is the mysterious power presiding over the entire world. He is taking us out of his love for us through Papa's in quest of God itinerant journey. So when we come to this stage, what do we learn from this? Ram has been tutoring Papa, so the learning has got two aspects. One by reflecting, memorizing, and the other by observing and experiencing. The first one is purely an internal activity, while the other is based on externals. When we learn something, first we do by memorizing, reflecting, and the other by observing and experiencing. One is called theory and the other is called practical. Both together complete the task of comprehensive education. Ram had provided sufficient theoretical knowledge to Papa, and through the itinerant life he is providing with the practical. When we go through his pre-22 days, we came to understand all that was necessary on the theoretical side were fed on him. But practical, that is why he pushed Papa from the place where he was to give him the practical, from the external side. So this right from Srirangam, this type of tutoring is going on in the form of tests meted out to Papa. So far, Papa was not confronted with any question on God. In order that Papa gets an opportunity to express his concerted view, Ram poses the fundamental question to confirm the veracity of Papa's own conviction on the word God at Kalahasti through a ticket examiner. This is how we look at it. Theory, enough, okay. Then practical started. But so far, either at Srirangam, or at Rameshwaram, or at Madurai, or at Chidambaram, or at Tiruvannamalai or Tirupapuriyur, nobody asked him anything about God. So what are the inferences based on experience and theory? Papa has God. There should be a field for expression. So Ram therefore motivated the ticket inspector to ask this question, fundamental question. Really, this is the one question that we have to get an answer. Ramana Bhagavan's Who Am I theory. So far, Papa was not confronted with any question of God, on God. In order that Papa gets an opportunity to express his concerted view, not an ordinary passing view, solid. Ram poses the fundamental question to confirm the veracity of Papa's own conviction on the word God at Kalahasti through a ticket examiner. Now the stage has been beautifully set. To a person of different faith, is a Christian. Why did he use the word Christian? Why did he use the word in European interest? So we start thinking about it. Then we realize, to a person of different faith, sadhaka or sadhu or parivrajaka and the like are Greek and Latin. To him, sadhus belong to the uneducated, and they simply wander from place to place and beg for their living. This is what they have read. Because they have not, the Indian system, they don't know. There is a word called sadhana, sadhaka, parivrajaka, all those things. So naturally, when he checked whether, when he knew that Papa was educated, he is not eligible. To him, sadhus belong to the educated and they simply wander from place to place to beg for their living. So the moment the TT knew that Papa knows English, he asked them to get down. Without murmur, Papa accepted it as another test of Ram. After some time, the same TT asked him the purpose of Papa's travel, because the dialogue should come out, So how he arranges everything, If he had simply allowed them to sit in the train, this would not have happened. So he wanted them to get down from the train. For that there should be a sufficient reason. So to him the reason is he is educated, so he cannot travel. He should get employed and he earn money and then travel. If he is not educated, they can understand, they can travel. So that is how he was asked to get down. Now having got down, he could have asked them to go out of the platform. No. Because Ram is playing now. Ram has to bring out from Papa's mouth what exactly he means by God. So without murmur, after some time they asked. Here a fundamental question is asked. When it is said that God is everywhere, where is the necessity to search for Him? So here, when we started thinking more about it, elsewhere Papa says, there are many who are doing sadhana. They do not know why they are doing it. Their conception of God is very limited and narrow. They must have, in the first place, a right concept of God before they try to attain Him. So if he did not have the clarity, he would not have been able to answer like this. So Ram is reminding us, have you got the clarity on the concept of the word God? Here we remember what all thoughts God gave us at the time of that introductory article to In Quest of God. Because there, we found In Quest of God as a spiritual course. In that, Papa's deeply insightful opening remarks in Quest of God reveals a priceless treasure of spiritual wisdom for every aspirant on his quest. It clearly and candidly answers many of our questions regarding the curriculum, the syllabus, the methodology, finally the culmination, the degree of our spiritual journey. By going through this exercise, aspirant will get more clarity in his or her journey towards the ultimate. This spiritual education starts with the word quest. One should be very clear as to what he or she is in search of. Are we clear? We have to ask ourselves. We may be attending so many programs, but are we clear about this quest? In Beloved Papa's case, it was clear that the search is to become always aware of the indwelling and all-pervading reality. Because the concept was very clear. God is the indwelling and all-pervading reality. Ram is a subtle and mysterious power, he says, and that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is he. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. Ram is all is in Ram, Ram is all in all. So the concept. If this concept is not clear, he would not have been able to address or reply the TTE. Ram is a subtle and mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is he. He is present in all beings and things and creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. Just like the electricity and the gadget. If the power will, even if we break the gadget, we will not be able to see the power. But without power, the gadget will be useless. So similarly, all our five sense organs, our mind, intellect, everything will work only when that mysterious power is within us. If somebody were to dissect our body, certainly they will not be able to find out the power. Without that power, the sense of individuality or any creature does not exist, will not exist. And even in inert, insentient matter, it has been proved that there are vibrations that are going on inside. So the life force is still there. So this clarity, through this particular 11th chapter, Ram is again reminding us that unless and you have the clarity, you will not be able to really comprehend the meaning of Papa's talk with the ticket examiner. What is that power? No? Again, we will go through that first day. The quest is a keen desire to realize Ram's infinite love kindled by Ram in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas. And the school is, the world we live in is a school. And curriculum, realize the great truth and love. Realize the great truth that love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in the world. This is the curriculum. And syllabus, complete surrender to the will of Ram. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we lose consciousness of the body, which keeps us aloof from him, and find ourselves in a state of complete identification, union with Ram, who is in us and everywhere around us. Hurdles feel as separate individuals through ignorance. Methodology, received from the world of vanishing forms. Total subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. If all these things are there, we will not be able to understand. And what is the examination? Sacrifice all the interests that concern the body for the welfare of our fellow men and fellow creatures, who are all manifestations of the same Ram. And who are our guides? The great sacrifice of Buddha, of Jesus, and has been of Mahatma Gandhi in our own times. And what is the degree we get? A state of complete identification and union with Ram. And convocation, the fullest manifestation of Ram, the great truth, the infinite love. This background, not merely the academic idea about it. Only if we try to join this course, become aware of the curriculum, become aware of the syllabus, go through the methodology, identify the hurdles, and write for exams, then only we will be able to do it. Then only in this particular chapter, when Papa answers, we will be able to understand it. Otherwise, it is a mere dialogue between A and B, that's all. So now coming back again to the chapter. Right from childhood, we have formed a strong faith that God is outside. And that is why we go to temples where we offer worship to various deities, and later on to ashrams where we adore the Mahatmas. At no time it is struck to us that he is with him. In Papa's case, though he also started worshipping deities initially, by Ram's grace he got awakened to the reality that God is both the indwelling and all-pervading reality. That is why he said God is everywhere, but he wants to have this fact actually proved by going to all places and realizing his presence everywhere. Sitting in this room, suppose I declare, it is right, it is the truth only. But in Papa's case, in many Mahatmas' case, this was not done. But in Papa's case, Ram saw to it that he got well established by seeing God everywhere. By
Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, 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 Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jaya Ram, Jaya Jaya जय राम ॐ श्रीराम जय राम जय जय राम
Again, this is not a must. In Papa's case, Ram took it. And because through Papa, he is now conveying this to us. So he was well aware, no? Just imagine, he was well aware. Even while he was on the itinerant Parivrajaka Yatra, it is not in search of God. We can say in quest of God who is everywhere. When we realize God within, it's a different matter. The same within God is everywhere outside. So it was not really an in quest of God, because right from the start he was well aware that God is within and God is without. God is without it's an inference, not an experience. So Ram took him out to prove this also. Ram again tested whether what Papa said was from the intellectual knowledge by motivating the TTE to identify the God factor then and there. Very touching, that particular portion. The question was direct, you remember? It was direct. Simple, straightforward, direct. They say God is everywhere, then where is the fun of your knocking about in search of Him, while He is at the very place from which you started on this quest? Right, brother? God is everywhere. But He wants to have this fact actually proved by going to all places and realizing His presence everywhere.
That confused him. This answer he could not understand. This answer of Papa he couldn't understand. Actually confused the character. He said,
Well then, if you are discovering God wherever you go, you must be seeing Him here on this spot where you stand. Certainly, brother, He is here at the very place where we stand. Can you tell me where He is? Behold, He is here standing in front of me. The ticket examiner also is a noble person. He is also in quest of God. Otherwise, that is why he developed some affinity towards Papa. And then he engaged him in a thoughtful discussion. So when Papa was developing it, when he said, yes, He is here now and here, He is here at the very place where we stand, suddenly, he was anxious to know where He is. Can you tell me where He is? Asked. Behold, He is here standing in front of me, exclaimed Ramdas enthusiastically. Then the inspector, the curiosity got cried impatiently, where? He also would like to see now. Then the question comes, what all we discussed in the first introductory, who is Ram? Here, pointed out Ramdas smiling and patted on the broad chest of the inspector himself. In the tall figure standing in front, that is in yourself, Ramdas clearly sees God who is everywhere. For a time, the inspector looked confused. because they have not gone beyond the thought level, naturally. So it was difficult to comprehend. At the same time, he knew whatever word that was coming from Papa, it was coming from the core, from the bottom. Then he broke into a hearty fit of laughter. Opening the door, which he had asked to get down, he requested them to get in again. And they did so, followed by him. He sat in the train with the sadhus for some time. I cannot disturb you, friends. I wish you all success in your quest of God. With these words, he left the carriage. Train rolled onwards. O Ram, thy name be glorified. Anyway, the episode part is over. Now we are asked to think about here, no, he said. So that's why we have to go back to the first introductory. Probably these are the questions still haunting us, many of us. We know he is there. We know without him we don't exist. We know without him even these words will not come. The very existence of ours is known because he is there. But still we don't know him. That is why immediately after the session we are back to the sense of individuality. If the clarity had come after Ramnam chanting, after bhajan, after satsang, after so many things, we must have, So now Ram is making us to think, whatever you have done so far, it has not helped you to identify the God dimension in you. Only when that is identified, you will be able to see the God dimension outside. Papa was regularly mentioning about the word meditation. So he was able to keep alive of the truth that God is within. And the moment the question was asked, when Ram put him that question through the TT, he did not have to refer anywhere. So immediately he said the indwelling. If it is indwelling here, it is indwelling there. So this particular chapter again makes us to think intensely about our search for God, our search for. We believe, we don't question. I think halfway we have done of the belief. The other half, the trust has not come. So our sense of individuality does not permit us to trust him fully. We have belief, unquestionable. That's why we often remember that episode that took place in Papa's time, when, like all of us, we keep on asking, we want that experience, we have come here for that experience, all those, we keep on telling, not insincerely, but it was not coming from the bottom. It was coming from the surface level. So Papa must have thought, I must put them on a test. So we were told that in the Bhajan hall, one day he said, yes, Ramdas is prepared to give. Whoever wants to take it, come on, come forward. And if we remember right the words, he gave 3 minutes. Nobody came forward. Why? One reason would be that, my attachment toward the things I have been hugging on, what will happen to that? Second thing, it would not have been an expected question. What should I do? I have no idea about God realization. I have this, the status of Papa, okay. I may have a vague idea that the status of Papa. And third one, no idea about the word God. If we had clarity about the word God, we will say, no, yes, Papa, yes, we are ready. Because we know you are there, but we don't know where you are there. We know, we believe you are there, but the moment we start reacting in the world outside, I am there, you are not there. So all this clarity, if it is there, we would have immediately gone and asked, is there any technique by which I become aware of His presence, at the same time retaining the sense of individuality? If that is not possible, then you give us another method by which we will get over. This much we know, this much we want. That we have a sense of individuality now. You have made the sense of individuality to crave for your realization. And so naturally it is legitimate on our part to ask for this, that you make us aware of your presence, retaining this sense of individuality. If that is not possible, give us a technique by which we transcend. We would have asked. So when he was answering the TTE, just imagine, how clear he was. It is not that we are not aware of him, we are aware of him. But if it is pointed out to us, we may not become aware of him. Today we happen to go through a small episode in the paper, very touching. So immediately we said, when you are compassionate, you play the part of God, you put that in. In COVID, one husband and wife and a child of 1 year or, 1 year old child. They were in the hospital, everybody was checked. Wife and husband positive, child negative. The child has to be removed. So the doctor immediately she took the child. She has got 2 children. And it is a very touching photo. The doctor, lady doctor, she is holding the child and showing her mummy and daddy through the window. And the child initially, it was resisting. Now the child is comfortable. And the other 2 children of the doctor, they have accepted her as Baba, their brother or sister. Every now and then she will take the child, show them when they come to the window. She filled the gap. Child is happy, very, very cute child. And that graceful face of the doctor, lady doctor. As soon as it came in the paper today, as soon as it was read out to us this morning, because we are collecting, or such, I said, Papa's quotation. When you are compassionate, you play the part of God. The doctor did not immediately ask, whom to give, who will take care of this child. She could size up the whole thing, identified herself totally with them. Though a small child cannot be with the parents, now who will now take care? Even if your so-called relatives may be reluctant, what will happen tomorrow? This, so many things, risk is there, After 1 year child means to take care of the 1 year child. But she did not think anything else. Because if the thought enters, if the intellect enters, it becomes a non-starter. When it is not there, when directly, that's why Papa said the compassion, when you are compassionate, you play the part of God. സഹാനുഭൂതിയിലൂടെ ഈശ്വരൻ്റെ ഭാഗം നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുന്നു. ട്രാൻസ്ലേഷൻ. That is the part of God. That is the role of God. So not that we do not know, we have, but we don't think, we don't recognize that is God, Though God gives us such experience, we don't still remember that is God. We don't become aware that is God. Every one of us are, either we are subjected to watch or subjected to go through such many experiences. Somebody has written, it was our bad luck that we were not there when Papa asked us who wants God realization. What we would have mentioned, we don't know now. Because none of them, they were all senior devotees, they were not in a position to answer because the lack of clarity was, because of the lack of clarity on the word God. That's what we infer. Because we think, if we leave anything. Yesterday we were reading Ramana Bhagwan's, what was that, remember? There is nothing to realize.
Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama, Om Shri 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 Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama, Om Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama, Om Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama, Om Shri Rama, Jaya Rama.
You to gain. On the other hand, a man must lose his ignorance, that's all. So when I must lose that I am limited, that's all. I must lose that I am so and so. Immediately we can get up and say, make me to do that. Nothing new. God realization is not a thing to be attained. So these words are coming because of his presence there. So through this chapter again and again, we are reminded, seek clarity on the word God. Then only your quest will start. Otherwise, outwardly you are on quest, but you are nowhere, you have reached nowhere. What all is required that you have to keep on. pondering over deeply about the origin of you and the world. When we close our eyes and chant, for example, Ram Nam, where from this Nama comes? Who is making me to chant? Who is making me to know that I am chanting? And where from that sound comes? And when we stop the chanting and start the chanting, there is a gap between this. What is that? How is it that the entire life is memorized now? How is it that right from the minutest activity to the grossest form, how does it happen? Say for the now hearing, seeing. So when in every chapter when Papa says he continued with the meditation, he was keeping it alive. It was not coming and going. In our case, we all would like to, but we are only, otherwise we will not be hearing this, So it is 100% sure there is an urge to know. But at the same time, we are unable to keep up the same tempo. Immediately after this, something else comes, overpowers us and prioritizes something else, and then we lose the link. Now suppose when we start knowing, how is it that the hearing goes on? How is it that I know that I am sitting, I am hearing, I am seeing? Very clear now, because in this peaceful atmosphere, sattvic atmosphere, the mind can be directed towards that. But what happens immediately after the session? We won't say entire thing is forgotten totally, but it doesn't remain. Some residue may be there. That is why slowly the samskara starts and we keep listening, we keep probing. As somebody said yesterday, we are preparing, at least now we are preparing for the campus interview in our next. So to do that, I know now, I must not dissipate my energy on something else. Whatever that is blocking me, I must try. I may lose. I don't know whether he will plan for me to win or lose. That is not my concern. At the moment, he keeps us. He tells us, keep it aflame. Papa was keeping it aflame. Every chapter you will find the word. He continued with meditation. He continued with meditation so that, the God factor is always kept alive. God factor is not disconnected. In our case, it is disconnected. He keeps it alive. Even in that extreme cold condition in Tirupati, what did he say yesterday? All the more good time for meditation of Ram. So even where the bodily discomfort was not overpowering, And Ram kept him, or Ram made him to keep this God factor alive. So he could easily get stabilized in that. This is something on which now Papa wants us all to ponder over deeply. Unless and until I get this clarity on the word God, it cannot be 100% given, because it is the very subject. The subject cannot talk about the subject. But still, something approximating to, just like we say, TV and the electricity, because this is something which we can understand. So a dead body and a live body, To begin with, we will say the life force. Again, it will take time for us to define what is life, or the chitta aspect, the awareness aspect, consciousness aspect, or the intelligence aspect. Sat Chit Anand. This particular chapter, it has come to a stage where we have to do some deep probing. Otherwise, the Papa knew that we will keep on reading and going. But here, we are unable to proceed to the next chapter. How is it that he was able to immediately say, touch his chest and say, I see him here, here? What is it that he saw? What is it that made him to say, I see him here? This is the fundamental question of a sadhaka. If I get the answer, I have got the everything. So we will again go through the introductory portion. Probably we may again. Papa's deeply insightful opening remarks in Quest of God reveals a priceless treasure of spiritual wisdom for every aspirant on his quest. That means you must go to the first one, not the first chapter. He says, Ram. There is no chapter there is no heading there. Immediately after the introduction, O Ram, the truth, the love, the goal of human perfection, all hail, all hail. This is the first introductory portion of In Quest of God by Papa. Anandashram has written introduction. It's not that. That's the biographical sketch of Papa. First the shloka from Bhagavad Gita, then an introduction by Anandashram Publications, and then comes the real introductory portion by Papa. That is how he starts. That is a very important. So far we have not given any importance at all. But the more we go deeper and deeper into it, why did he place it before all chapters? Because a correct comprehension of this only will enable you to really enjoy the entire chapters. It looks as if, he is putting on a course of studies. It contains everything. So Papa's deeply insightful opening remarks in Quest of God reveals a priceless treasure of spiritual wisdom for every aspirant in his quest. It clearly and candidly answers many of our questions regarding the curriculum, the syllabus, the methodology, finally the culmination, the degree of our spiritual journey. By going through this exercise, aspirant will get more clarity in his or her journey towards the ultimate. The spiritual education starts with the word quest. One should be very clear as to what he or she is in search of. In Beloved Papa's case, it was clear that the search is to become always aware of the indwelling and all-pervading reality. Where from we got this? His own words. Ram is a subtle and mysterious power that pervades and sustains the whole universe. Birthless and deathless is He. He is present in all things and in all creatures who only appear as separate entities due to their ever-changing forms. Because Ram is in all is in Ram, Ram is all in all. Then, so a keen desire to realize Ram's infinite love, kindled by Ram in the heart of his humble slave Ramdas. Even the kindling has been attributed to Ram. Then school, this life. The world we live in is a school. Curriculum. Realize the great truth. There are all these words from that particular article. Realize the great truth that love of Ram means love of all beings, all creatures, all things in this world. So ultimately, I become this. It is not one-sided. The difference between syllabus and curriculum is, curriculum covers the whole, teaching, training, everything. Syllabus, relates to the subjects. So here it covers everything. The great truth that love of Ram means love of all beings, love of all creatures, all things in this world. Very clear. Not doing some, Shastra Padanam or some Nama chanting or some bhajan or something like that. No. Some puja. No. The ultimate is the flowering of this, loving everybody. Great truth that love of Ram means love of all beings, all things. And what syllabus? Text. Surrender. Complete surrender to the will of Ram. In Papa's course of studies, there is no other. Otherwise there will be Brahma Vidya Paranam, no? Upanishad will be there, this will be there, that will be there. Here the simple, straight surrender. By a complete surrender to the will of Ram, we lose consciousness of the body which keeps us aloof from Him and find ourselves in a state of complete identification and union with Ram, who is in us and everywhere around us. So surrender, 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 surrender. That is the only subject. And huddle, feel as separate individuals through ignorance. Everything has been easily pointed out. The me and mine is the huddle. Acha, now what is the methodology? Recede from the world of vanishing forms, totally subdue our egoism, our self-assertion as a separate individual existence. That is the only way. How do we know that we have done it? There should be exams, Sacrifice all the interests that concern the body for the welfare of our fellow men and fellow creatures who are all manifestations of the same Ram. That is the examination. Sacrifice all the interests that concern the body. Body means body, mind, intellect. And what is the degree we get? A complete state of complete identification and union with Ram. Convocation. Inside, okay. Outside also should be the fullest manifestation of Ram. The great truth, the infinite love. So every now and then we go back to these words. And then again go through the chapters. Then we will know, yeah, he is building up one by one, one by one, one by one. So he is taking us, all of us, he is taking us in this journey through Papa's inquest of God and gives us every day some points, some clarity. So that whatever we are doing under the banner of spirituality gets the real color. Every time when I chant, I must pray. One part of the mind must pray. Due to habituation, I am chanting and I am enjoying it. But immediately after that, I lose contact with the joy. Please don't do that. Make me aware you are prompting and you are there with me always. I am not enjoying the sweetness of Ram Nam when non-chanting takes place because I am not aware of you are motivating me to chant. And that is the sweetness. Your presence is the sweetness. When I chant, when all other thoughts go away, I unknowingly become aware of your presence, and that is the one I name it as sweetness. So the moment I stop the chanting, naturally when I lose contact with you, the sweetness is not there. So this is meditation. Part of the mind is meditating on Ram, part of the mind is chanting his name. And by this process, we are trying to become aware of his presence always. I think now Inquest of God gives us a lot of clarity now. Please think about it. This is how at the moment we look at it. Many a time we have taken up Inquest of God, but this time, it is unique. Never was the motivation to concentrate on the first article of Papa in Inquest of God. But it gave us a lot of clarity. Because everything is packed, there is a package there. Now we try to blend it with our daily life, our daily routine. So this particular chapter, God is everywhere, has been instrumental in making us, God is everywhere, yes, 12th chapter. It is making us aware of what is contained in the introductory remarks about Ram. And then again, every day what we should do is start from that, again go through these 11 chapters mentally. What do they mean to us? If we are not just hearing and going, we will not be able to derive. It will also go. We are back to square one. But suppose we build up this, every chapter he makes us to go through now. That is why yesterday the prompting came that we should give a break. Because we will sit and go, do. Tomorrow is the 13th, Tomorrow is the 13th chapter, I think. 13th chapter. So yes, 13, kind policeman. So with that we will stop for a week. And then during these 5-6 days, every one of us will take up this in a notebook. We will try to note down. Because then again when you see that, you will see how you are prompted from within by him. You are not writing. You are giving now, you are facilitating, you are allowing yourself to the Ram who is seated within. And you will find mysteriously how the guidance comes. 100% sure. Everybody will be, will have the thrill So when you take the notebook and write what was the first, what was the second, what was the third, and luckily because this is all in, what do you call this, streaming.
Live streaming.
It must be there in the YouTube. So whenever we feel there is any gap, one or two words, it is available. So we can stitch everything together. And by the time we meet again, it will be a consolidation of all the thoughts that Papa gave on all these 13 chapters. And apart from the academic side of completing 13 chapters, it will slowly throw more and more light on our spiritual journey. We pray for his continued guidance and grace so that our inward journey becomes more and more effective, empowering us to move forward with greater confidence. Hari Om.
राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Everybody, first we will go to the text. Chapter 13. A kind policeman. Yesterday we saw the ticket examiner who detained Papa for a while, asked him the question as to where he was going out, why he was going out. When it was said it was in quest of God, then ticket examiner had asked, if God is everywhere, why should you go around? Then he said, God is everywhere, but he wants to have this fact actually proved by going to all places and realizing his presence everywhere. Then the ticket examiner again asked, if it is true, then he must be here also. Then Papa said, yes. Where? He asked. Then here pointed out, Ramdas smiling, and patted on the broad chest of the inspector himself, in the tall figure standing in front, that is in yourself. Ramdas clearly sees God who is everywhere. For a time he looked confused, then broke into a hearty fit of laughter. It might be anything, He is of different faith. So Papa here clearly says, I see him here. That moment, that was instrumental in transforming his attitude and allowed him to travel. So at noon next day, Ram, who is the loving parent of all, seeing that the sadhus were going without food, induced a ticket clerk to ask them to alight at a station between Bezwada and Jagannathpuri. Ramdas does not remember the name of the station. Coming out of the station, they proceeded toward the city and procuring some food, refreshed themselves, and returning in the evening to the same station, spent the night there. Next day they had to catch the train at the same hour at which they were made to alight the previous day. But there was some difficulty to encounter, all of course apparent, for Ram's ways are always mysterious. It was agreed to by both the ticket clerk and the station master not to permit these sadhus to board the train. So on the arrival of the train, when the sadhus were entering the carriage, both these officers, of course, in strict discharge of their duties, prevented them from doing so, in spite of the entreaties of the sadhu. The passengers on the platform had all occupied the carriages. The two sadhus and the railway officers were alone on the platform. The clerk and the station master were keenly watching the sadhus, lest they should slip into the train. O Ram, how wonderful thou art! There was still some time for the train to start. Now a railway policeman coming up to the sadhus asked them to get into the carriage. But the Sadhu Ram told him that the ticket clerk would not allow them to go. The policeman then, going to the place where the clerk and the station master were standing, placed the case of the sadhus before them, saying, you see, these sannyasis deserve to be allowed to get into the train. As regards tickets, they cannot be expected to carry money, since money is not their quest, as in the case of worldly people. These words did not convince the railway officers. They replied rightly, of course, it is against rules to permit anybody to travel in the train without a ticket. So it is useless on your part to plead for them. Moreover, you forget the fact that your suggestion is against the very spirit of your duty as a policeman in the service of the railway company. This reply annoyed the policeman considerably. He felt strongly that these sadhus must somehow be allowed to travel by the train. It was now nearly time for the train to start. The kind policeman was very uneasy. His eyes flared up, and there was a glint of desperate look in them. He swiftly moved toward the train. Opening the door of the carriage, beckoned the sadhus to enter, which they did as told. It was all the work for a moment, but this was observed by the ticket clerk from a distance, and he ran up to the place at once. On what authority did you permit the sadhus to enter the train? Questioned the clerk in an angry tone. The policeman, who was tall and stalwart, placed himself in front of the closed door of the carriage, his back leaning against it. Look here, brother, he replied in a cool but firm voice. In a matter of this kind, there is no higher authority than the dictates of one's own conscience, which are rightly considered as the promptings of God Himself. This action of yours shall be reported to the higher authorities, and you will answer for it, warned the ticket clerk. Certainly, friend, replied the policeman. As a result of your report, even if I be dismissed from the service, I am fully prepared to face all consequences. But neither you nor anybody on earth shall prevent the sadhus from travelling by this train. The clerk was sorely perplexed at the attitude of the policeman and was looking for the station master, who was then busy giving the signal for the departure of the train, since the time was up. The whistle went, the train rolled on. The clerk was simply staring at the carriage occupied by the sadhus, quite helpless. O Ram, what can poor Ramdas, thy slave, understand by this incident? Why, when thy omnipotent hands are at work, nothing can stop or obstruct thee. O kind and loving protector of the universe, thy one touch can change in a moment the entire face of the universe. The very policeman who is stationed on the railway platform to prevent passengers from breaking the rules of the company deliberately breaks all such rules himself and seats the two sadhus in the train, knowing fully well that they held no tickets, and this too in the face of bitter opposition and at the risk of losing his job. O Ram, it is now beyond any doubt that thou art seated in the hearts of all, including the whole universe, to act and move in strict accordance with thy sovereign will. Ram, thou art indeed the true lover of thy devotees. Thy slave cannot find words to express thy greatness and thy love. O tears, flow on, and this is the only way Ramdas can express his feelings. A very important point has been pointed out. Ram plays an interesting scene to test Papa and to make us aware of some rare dimensions in spirituality. Adversity is not undesirable, because it is only when you are down and out in life that you can realize its true value. Face all the vicissitudes of in life by throwing yourself completely on the mercy of the Lord. When you are made to go through the fire of suffering, you can come out of it purified and strengthened. Such suffering constitutes real sadhana for attaining God. The more bitter it is, the more rapid becomes your spiritual progress. Here we find at no place Papa is criticizing the railway officials. It is their duty to behave like that. He fully acknowledges. The Sadhuram pleaded. Later on, when they were asked not to travel, they were standing. The policeman comes and asks, they explained. They did not forcibly enter into the compartment. So there is a, when we view it judiciously, impartially, Papa serves as an onlooker. Get down, okay. Get in, okay. First lesson for us. That was the first test for Papa. He did not plead. He did not tell them anything. And previous day when he was asked to get down, he did not take it as a punishment or as a persecution. He took it that they did not have any meal, so they wanted a break. So the ticket collector asked them to get down. So they went to the town, and then for the whole day they were there. There also we find he takes it as a positive. At noon next day, Ram, who is the loving parent of all, seeing that the sadhus were going without food, induced a ticket clerk to ask them to alight at a station. There also there is no grumbling, no complaints. In each and every act of others, Papa was only seeing the finger of God. His quotation, behold divinity in every aspect of this world Leela. Verily it is He at play in all beings and creatures. However much we read, it is difficult for us to accept it. But probably when we keep on hearing it, it might slowly percolate. We may fail even then, but one day we might win also. So that is why whenever we are passing through any chapter, this is highlighted. Positively indifferent. We are not identifying ourselves with the individuality in them. Then you will find, the rights and wrongs, positive, negative. When we are not identifying with the individual and trying to connect ourselves with the universal, that means God, we find everything positive only. A small incident somebody has written, if I may mention here, once my mother and I were in a crowded train and had to get off at Gulbarga station where the train stops for a short time. It was doubtful whether we can get down at all. Suddenly 2 ladies came, and one standing before me and the other behind my mother said, just follow us. And even before we realized, we were made to get down the train. Later my mother told me that she was praying to Papa. There at least, she says she was praying to Papa. Here no such thing, Total submission to his will. That is the first point. No, not blaming the authorities. The act of ticket collector to get down from the train is taken as a measure to provide food for the sadhus. The second part of the drama picturizes Ram prompting the TT and the station master not to allow them, again in the form of policemen, allow them to get into the train. Two things are there.
So that compassion, because of compassion, that should.
No, the lesson we can mention is God is preventing them through some other form. God is removing that hurdle through some other form. And how do we know why this act? We cannot say why. Probably to show some lesson, to us. The lesson is that though we may be discharging our duties, we should be humane, statutes are there. Even when we are working in a company or in a government department, there are certain strict rules, norms there. Everything is there. But at the same time, one has to be humane. No? That means rules and regulations are there only for the upkeep of certain dharma, agreed. But still there will be some exceptions. In every act the parliament passes or the assembly passes, finally there will be one clause, an exception clause. Government does not use it, but there is a clause there. Because there may be some other point which would not have been covered by the statute. So the exemption may be granted by the government in such cases. That means, we have to be humane. So he is teaching us, the station master as well as the deity was right according to the statute, according to the norms. They are not to be blamed. At the same time, the policeman, his behavior was based on this aspect. That is why he said the higher authority
There is no higher authority.
dictates of one's own conscience. Manasakshi. That means God. Where there is no reasoning there.
So he is willing to lose his job.
Yeah.
Why?
That is another lesson.
Mm.
First lesson is that we have to be humane.
Amen.
And normally, suppose we applaud this and this is encouraged, it will lead to chaos. So here one more lesson. You should not break the law. If at all you are breaking the law, it should be because of some human consideration, not for you. It should not be self-centered. Another one, you should do it openly, not secretly. And another point, you should be able to accept the punishment. He did not justify. He said, even if I have to lose my job, it's all right. So many lessons for us, through this incident. Everybody has to go along with the dharma, the rules, the regulations. But there may be moments when you may have to break it. But you should, by and large, you should not. But if you have to do it, it should be purely for the benefit of others based on human consideration. Purely based on human consideration. Not that he is a relative of yours, not that he has helped you. It's all self-centered. This is purely you become humane. Sadhus will not. They are not carrying money. Their mission is something different. So they should be allowed. There is no rule in the railway company that the sadhus should be allowed. No, agreed. But there are some, where any local person can take discretion. Suppose he is answerable, he will say that. But in this case, they were going foot rule, they are strictly observing the rules. The policeman came and he felt, no, they should be allowed. So when he pleaded to the officers, first he pleaded not straight away, he pleaded to the officers that you cannot expect them to carry money, that is not their quest. So they should be allowed. When it was rejected by them, then he was guided by a different dimension. And he stood there, he openly violated, made them to sit. Even when he was warned that it will be reported, he clearly stated that even if he has to lose the job, nobody can prevent these people from going. Such fixed resolve was there. Determined. Not because of anything. We should know that the sadhus have no touch with the policemen. Policemen had no touch with the sadhus. They have nothing to gain from each other. It was purely an act of conscience. So here, we have to take it that Ram is teaching us that there may be moments in your life when we have to go beyond the norms, beyond the rules, beyond the traditions, beyond the precedents. But you should do it only when it is it is not self-centered. It should not be for any profit. It should not be for any vested interest. It should be zero there. And you should do it openly. And you should be able to accept the punishment. When we were going through the Gandhi movie, you might remember. I think I don't exactly remember. It must have been in Champaran, the indigo farmers' problem, where Gandhiji was arrested and taken to the court, where he said, you should punish me with the maximum punishment. Because he says the breaking the law is not to be encouraged. But here he had to break the law to draw the attention of the government or the concerned people for the redressal of the indigo workers. So give me the maximum punishment. Before that, there was one more. He was arrested. He was taken to the district court. Then they knew Gandhiji has nothing personal in it. So what to do now? They have already initiated the legal proceedings. So the judge said, you are set on bail, 100 rupees you pay. Gandhiji refused to pay. Gandhiji said, you put me in jail. Finally, the Lieutenant Governor intervened and said, release Gandhiji and withdraw the case. Because there also we find, the humaneness in them. We also remember one more episode which we read somewhere. How Israel was born. When after the Second World War, when Jews had no place to go, and there was no country called Israel, they were asked to move from place to place. A shipment carrying about 250 children. So finally they reached the Tel Aviv, near there. Then asked permission to land. They were denied. It was under British rule then. So if we remember right, very touching incident. The elders in the ship asked there were 250 children. The children were there, asked to assemble, and they told them, we have no country to go. Now the key is in your hand. You can change the heart of the authorities. Can we take a fast unto death to 250 small children? Suddenly they said yes. So it was announced through the cable that 250 children are going on fast until they are allowed to land. Immediately, the Prime Minister, Chamberlain or somebody, they were all upset. So he wanted to immediately convene the cabinet meeting, how to avoid the crisis. You can see the restlessness boiling, the life of 250 children and your statute. Your statute says that you can change only if there is a cabinet sanction. Finally, he was searching to locate all the ministers. And finally he couldn't get many. So finally he says, whether I lose the job, whether I lose the whole Britain, I am not going to allow the children to die. Give them the landing permission. And everybody applauded, everybody said yes. That is how Ben Gurion, the land was born. So these are all certain incidents which touch us. We remember why? Because far from statute, far from precedents, far from traditions, far from norms, one more factor is there. Be humane. That means you are touching your own core. No other consideration is there. It is not for any profit, it is not for anything else but to satisfy your own conscience. That is what here the policeman says. When he says this, in a matter of this kind, there is no higher authority than the dictates of one's own conscience, which are rightly considered as the prompting of God Himself. Papa used to mention this in connecting many incidents. So the enmity will not be there. You may be acting. Apparently you may be acting even violently for the sake of the society. He said flowery words may not be enough. You should act. But even at that time you will be keeping this. It will not be for any self-centered profit. A sadhu, when he is attacked, he will submit to it. But the same sadhu, when the attack comes on the society, and if so many people are going to be killed, he will take. He will even shoot. These are the words Papa has used. Love him personally in that article. Here mere flowery words may not be there. But even by doing that, there won't be any enmity. So thus, we should not violate any rules. However, we should not violate any rules. However, if violated, it should be for the welfare of others. Should not be done secretly. Should be should be prepared to bear all the consequences. These are the lessons Ram is teaching us through Papa's episode in this particular chapter. Every chapter now we found there are something for us to learn. We have covered about 13 chapters. So as suggested, from tomorrow onwards, for the next 6-7 days, there will be a break. We will all meet again on next Sunday. Next Sunday happens to be the auspicious occasion called Guru Purnima Day. So by the time we come back, let all of us go through these 13 chapters intently. Not merely reading at the surface level. Papa made us to dive deep into each chapter, made us to bring out so many dimensions which would be helpful for our spiritual journey. We will try to put them. Make a note of them, put them in a note, and watch for ourselves. See for ourselves whether it's of any use to me in my spiritual journey. Papa as a sadhaka undertook. Papa for the sake of us, he has recorded it. God, for the sake of our spiritual progress, motivated us to go through. All these things have been done. Now what is our part? Our part is not just to read. Our part is to dive deep and find out how it helps us in our journey. So right from the introductory message, which is entitled as Ram. O Ram, the truth, the love, the goal of human perfection. All hail, all hail. That is the first article of Papa. Then starts the chapter number 1. Elaborately we touched upon the first introductory, not Ashram's introduction, we name it as introductory message, because he is introducing the name Ram. So he wanted to know who Ram stands for. Stands for what? What is this Ram? Who is this Ram? So he brings it out. Along with that, he gave us an imaginary sketch. An imaginary sketch of the course of studies on spirituality. We take it like that. That Papa has given us a curriculum, a syllabus, methodology, guide, exam, degree, and convocation. Everything is contained in this particular one. And in the first chapter, we found so many new dimensions. First one is the impersonal aspect. How clear Papa was about the impersonal aspect of God by bringing the word the great void. How he was able to touch and kindle this because of the prayer from the bottom of the heart. And because of the purity he had attained, intuitively he was able to hear the voice of Ram. The moment he heard, he felt immense relief. To sustain that relief, he wanted to remember him. And that remembrance process was called meditation. And when he took to this meditation, slowly self-denial started. Anything that pulls him away from that thought was denied by himself. And even when the period was ever so strong, he was trying to bring in this dimension. And then, when God had set this much of stage, he brought in his father to initiate him. So the initiation of mantra was also then done. And all his thoughts were supported by the words of different masters. And then he was evaluating himself, what was happening in him. Then he found the me and mine was receding. Relationship and the sense of possession was fading. And he was slowly finding that God thought fills his mind, covering up everything. And when we moved to the second chapter, we found that Ram wanted to. So he had he had completely surrendered. Every time, anything that happens, he was able to now feel. As soon as he heard intuitively, trust me, thou shalt be free. And he trusted. Suddenly we remembered, we believe in God, but we don't trust Him. Belief is an internal one. Trusting is the outer. I believe, no doubt. How will I know that I believe Him? I should trust Him. In our case, the trust aspect is not there. In his case, the belief and trust both were there. Faith and trust. So then Ram intended, the moment he handed himself over to him, Ram intended to put him on a severe test. And that too under his direct control and guidance. That means there was no intermediary, no precedence, no tradition, no outer guru, no institution, nothing. Every time when he was confronted, the sense of individuality, suppose it raises some doubt or it has some wavering, immediately God intervenes because He is directly under His control. It is a very big lesson for us. We are all now taking shelter under something, not directly under Him. Then He sends out a prayer. There also He taught one more thing. One day while He was chanting, this thought was going up, that when everything is yours, why should He not divest Him of everything that He called His own? And He sends out a prayer, remove the minus in me. That is how the saga, the thought of saga starts. Very great lesson for all of us. So spiritual journey means getting rid of the me and mine. And in order that he is on the right path, he got it authenticated by the words of great masters, and when they are through their words, when it was confirmed that completely leaving everything to the will of God or renouncing everything alone can finally take him to the goal, he decided, and he wrote 2 letters discharging all the liabilities there and informing the family people. Next day he left. And in the next chapter we found that he was taken to Srirangam. Mysteriously he was taken, and then there he adopted sannyas. He took 3 vows, very important vows. First one, dedicating his entire life for the meditation of and service of Ram. We should be very clear, we should apply our mind, then only we'll be able to catch something of it. Second was he would look upon all as mothers, all ladies as mothers. Third one, he would purely depend upon, surely subsist on the alms received as bhiksha. So with that the saga now started. So before the saga started, what all? We also happen to know from the passage to divinity the preparatory step he did from 1920 to 1922. Because in the first introductory he mentions the year 1920. It was about 2 years ago in 1920 that Ram first kindled in the heart of his humble slave. So during this 1920 to 22, he was also passing through a lot of inner struggle. That the churning was going on. And the churning directed him to go through the works of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramtirtha and Yoga Vasishtha, which laid the foundation for his. At that time he was not aware of the, probably he was not aware of the itinerant yatra, but then he found that was the basis upon which he started the whole thing. Because in the Yoga Vasishtha, the dialogue between Rama and Vasishtha, it gives the quintessence of the entire spirituality. The impersonal, not only the impersonal aspect, the indwelling and all-pervading reality, And the word voice came from that. So it had laid the foundation. And then one by one, in chronological order, God set him. And then put him and pushed him. And then made him to look at the world and all the happenings that he is going to be subjected to through as a part of Ram's Leela. He was guiding him properly. He was guiding him at every moment. He was making him to become aware of his guidance. In our case also, we are being guided by him, but we are not aware of his guidance. We feel we are guiding ourselves. But in his case, at every moment, he was made aware of the guidance given to him by Ram. So from there he went to Rameshwaram, and from there to Madurai, from Madurai to Chidambaram, Chidambaram to Tirupapaliyur, from there to Tiruvannamalai. So many dimensions are there. And after the darshan of Brahma Bhagavan, he was prompted to go for solitude for 1 month, where he did intense sadhana, intense meditation. With the result, he had a glimpse of the universal vision. And we went through the so many aspects. From there he went to Tirupati, and from Tirupati to Kalahasti, and then Kalahasti now to this stage, Basavada and Jagannath Puri. So all these chapters, one by one, when it goes, it is pregnant with so many dimensions, which are not easily understandable. Only when we apply a little more deeper our mind, we will be able to lay our hands. So reflection, inward journey with an idea to give us the direction. Why you made us to read, why you made us to go through. You have given me a life. You made me to live as a human being, as an individual. With a sense of individuality, you made me to form so many opinions, so many norms, so many rights and wrongs, so many preferences, so many likes and dislikes. You made me to lead. But somehow you chose to make me aware that there is a higher purpose than what I am living now. And slowly you drew me to this ashram. You drew me to the inspiring life and mission of Papa. But even then we were not clear. We were definitely attracted by the magnetic personality of Papa. And we started chanting his name. We started associating with some of his thoughts, but never knew where we are. Because every now and then we find we are there where we were. There is no change in us. Change in the sense, everything was viewed from the individual level. Even now everything is viewed from the individual level. Though intellectually we have been piling up so many dimensions, when the time comes for translating into the practical life, we are unable to. We don't have that firm conviction. When we have you made us to reach that stage, you made us to go through the inquest of God again. And through that, you made us to dive deep into it. So now we are trying to connect up our spiritual life with the inputs you are now giving through inquest of God. So this should be the background of the next 7 days. So our suggestion is all may kindly please go through chapter again and again. Whatever we remember, we jot down. Again we sit for some time, connect up with our life. Nobody knows our life other than us, Rest of the people may be forming opinion. That need not be the reality. Only one will know what is going on inside. And this is not for anybody to read. So we try to place ourselves barely before him. So we will be able to identify the areas where we have to improve, where we have failed, where we are moving toward the direction. There may be some areas where we may be also moving. So we try to do that. And these 13 chapters definitely contain, especially the first 3-4, it contains a lot of dimensions, not 1 or 2 dimensions. and it makes us to think deeply. To quote Papa's own words, introspection and direct examination of his own heart are essential for a man who wishes to make himself pure and thereby prepare himself for obtaining eternal peace and happiness which his soul thirsts for. Introspection and direct examination of his own heart are essential for a man who wishes to make himself pure and thereby prepare himself for obtaining eternal peace and happiness which his soul thirsts for. It is rightly said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Judge not others. Let the torch of criticism aimed at others be directed against oneself. Let the pride with which one is obsessed be laid in the dust. Let him know where he stands, what he is, what his inner cravings are, what is the disease that has seized his soul, what are the impurities lurking in his mind, what is the great obstacle that stands between him and the immortal bliss and peace, and what are the bonds that keep him tied down to the low levels of life and prevent him from soaring into the heaven of his real life and being, the eternal truth. When he has thus, by deep reflection, this word is very important, by deep reflection, discovered what he is, he can, through prayer, self-discipline, company of great souls, and acts of love and compassion, get rid of all impediments, mental obsessions, nay, darkness that envelops his soul, and realize the splendor, power, peace, and joy of the great truth that dwells within him. This is how he cautions us. This is how he directs us. Very powerful word. Once again we will read. These 7 days we will try to. Introspection and direct examination of his own heart are essential for a man who wishes to make himself pure and thereby prepare himself for obtaining eternal peace and happiness which his soul thirsts for. It is rightly said, "Judge not others, lest you be judged." Let the torch of criticism aimed at others be directed against oneself. Let the pride with which one is obsessed be laid in the dust. Let him know where he stands, what he is, what his inner cravings are, what is the disease that has seized his soul, what are the impurities lurking in his mind, what is the great obstacle that stands between him and the immortal bliss and peace, and what are the bonds that keep him tied down to the low levels of life and prevent him from soaring into the heaven of his real life and being, the eternal truth. When he has thus, by deep reflection, discovered what he is, he can, through prayer from the bottom of the heart, like what Papa did, self-discipline, which are the areas which calls for disciplining, company of great souls. If we cannot get them the physical company, we can associate with their works, with their inspiring life and teachings in the form of biographical sketches. Any Mahatmas. 100% guarantee is there. The moment we go and approach, suddenly, intuitively, it will strike to you which page you have to take, and then ponder over it. Write down and ponder over it. And then pray to Him to give you the strength to live up to it. So prayer, self-discipline, company of great souls. And this also should come out. Acts of love and compassion. God will give us, facilitate us with enough opportunities to expand from me to we. Because ultimately we will all know the diagnosis, the report will reveal that everything stems from the me and mine. So when I pray to the Lord to somehow get me rid of this, He will facilitate us from a minutest one to the grossest one. Opportunities for us to expand the love circle, to bring in the quality, care and concern of as many of His creation in our circle. We will find that definitely. So that's why He says acts of love and compassion. Get rid of all impediments, mental obsessions, nay, darkness that envelops the soul, and realize the splendor, power, peace and joy of the great truth that dwells within Him. Again, the last line is very important. It dwells within you. It is not from outside. Everything is within. We are unaware of it. Because of so many such things, obsessions, it is now covered. The veil has to be removed. So we have all been given. We are the chosen ones, we are the privileged ones. When He has made us to go through this, we take it that we have passed the entrance test. Now we are really sitting for the course and finally the exam. Entrance test we have all passed, otherwise we will not be hearing all these words. So let us all try to intensely concentrate on this. And then when we meet on the 5th, we will have a recap of the whole thing, apart from sharing some thoughts on the importance of the day. Because the inner Guru will definitely guide us from stage to stage. He has been guiding and He has taken us this far. Whenever we have nodded our head towards what He suggests, we got benefited. There were many times when we did not look at Him. Now hereafter we will look at Him. That is why probably He has planned it in such a way that it should restart on the 5th July, which happens to be the day for all of us to intensely, gratefully, respectfully remember our spiritual preceptor first and a galaxy of gurus who have been guiding us right from our childhood to till this date.